Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. Happy Saturday. I hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. I am on my own this weekend. Dan is out of town celebrating his birthday with his best friend, so it's me, the dogs, and as many books as I can get done. So that does not sound too bad, does it? On top of it, it's a weird freak May rainstorm for Northern California. So it is pouring outside today, so that's even better reading weather. So I cannot complain. I am actually super excited to get this video in because it is another read and reviewed. It has been a minute since I've done a read and reviewed video because, as you guys know, I was going through a bit of a reading slump. So I read some different stuff, tried some different things, and I have 3 more books to tell you about. Get out your pen, get out your paper, get out your Goodreads because I'm super excited about telling you about these 3 books. So, the first book I'm going to tell you about is The Archive of Alternate Endings by Lindsey Drager. This was kindly sent to me by Zenka Books. And you know what? I always say their name wrong, and I really should. Zenk, D-Z-A-N-C. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. Zenk Books. And I read Lindsey's last book, which was The Last Daughter Collective, and absolutely loved it. I thought it was interesting and daring and thought-provoking, and this book is absolutely no different. So, if you are one of my followers that likes books that are sort of challenging in setup, challenging in texture, and also challenging in sort of the ideas that that Lindsey is trying to get you to go around, this is the book for you, because this is going to be a hard book for me to tell you about. It's interesting. So really there are 2 themes going out throughout this book. One is a theme of time, and one is a theme of storytelling. The theme of time is the idea of the Halley's Comet. Now, the Halley's Comet passes Earth every 75 years in intervals, so the time periods of this book are every 75 years in different iterations, but definitely the Halley's Comet always some way plays a factor in that section of the story. The other sort of storytelling aspect is the fairy tale Hansel and Gretel. That idea and sort of how that fairy tale came into the common consciousness, also how that fairy tale sort of changes throughout time as people intercept it, is also sort of one of the things. So what Lindsey has done here is she has taken those 2 ideas and spaced them in these different time intervals so that you get different types of people and different perspectives on relationships and also literature and thought and gender, all through the perspective of Hansel and Gretel and Halley's Comet. For example, one of the threads is the Brothers Grimm. They are collecting the story of Hansel and Gretel to put it down on paper. And what Lindsey really cleverly does here is we know that the Brothers Grimm revised their fairy tales throughout time, and it talks about that in sort of how they were collecting it, how it was much darker than it winds up being in the collective consciousness. Then we have a woman who is in a facility, a mental facility, drawing pictures for what would become the definitive illustrated version of Hansel and Gretel. But why is she there? What does this story mean to her? What is the point and purpose of all that? There's many other things. We go into the future where the story of Hansel and Gretel is sent out in binary code into the universe. What does that mean as a story that's being told to represent humanity? All in these different intervals of Halley's Comet. What is Halley's Comet? Where does it turn into? Where does it go? That sounds very complicated, but what she does is she uses all of these themes and ideas to sort of get you to think upon different things, and then sort of uses the different time periods to sort of add relevance to either sections before or after. She is very clever. She has some beautiful turns of phrase, but she's always challenging you as a reader to be thinking about how things intertwine throughout time and history and throughout sort of the written and visual art form. I absolutely love this. I flew through it. It took me about 2 days. It's not a big book, but it definitely is a book that you'll stop and want to sort of contemplate over, which is pretty amazing. So that is The Archive of Alternate Endings by Lindsey Drager. This is out. I think it came out on May 7th, so you can get your hands on it. Please support your independent little publishers because they do produce some really amazing books, and I really love this one. So what did I do after that? I was still sort of struggling with what I wanted to read next, so I decided to go a little middle grade YA. And I had some success because I read two books that I actually really enjoyed, one more than the other. So let me tell you about the first one that I absolutely loved, and that was Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. I know that this book has been a bit all over BookTube, but if you are looking for that next series for the Harry Potter reader in your life, I highly recommend this. This is the story of Morgan. Sort of the premise is that she is born, and she was born with a group of children on a certain day, and is considered cursed because on that day, on her 11th birthday, it is known that she will die. That has sort of been this ongoing curse of these children born on this same day every 11 years. What happens is, she is in the community, or in sort of this world that she lives in, there is a day where all of the other children, including herself in this instance, are bid upon by different people as sort of a way of getting them to go to different schools. And, they're sort of like, what's the word that I'm looking for? They're sort of like they're sponsored by different people in the community, different schools. What happens is Morgan, who is not thought to ever have this happen because everyone knows she's cursed and everyone knows she's going to die, actually gets 4 bids, and that changes her life forever. What happens one day, on the day that she is supposed to die, she is rescued by a man and taken to a magical world where she is being entered as a contestant to be part of a magical society and learn about sort of this different world and these different groups. And here she makes friends, she learns about herself, she learns about people, and she also learns about the history, not only of her world, but also this world of Nevermore. I was enraptured. I ran through this book. If you guys need another second opinion, Lauren of Lauren and the Books, huge fan of this book. I want to say Mercedes of Mercy's Musings, also a huge fan. And I loved it. I flew through it, absolutely adored it, and was raptured. I have been looking for book 2. It's actually sold out in almost every bookstore that I've gone to, which is great for Jessica Townsend, not so great for me in wanting to read book 2. And I believe there will be a 3rd book coming out. So that's Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. The next book I read on the recommendation of my friend Richard at Richard Reads, and that is another YA middle grade book, and that's The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. Now, this book for me was a little bit less page turning, but what we have is the story of Luna. Luna is a young girl who is born in this world. She's sort of born in this world that has a very strict structure and sort of a patriarchal overseeing, and once every year a child is chosen and is sacrificed to the witch in order to keep the witch out of their town. And Luna is taken on that day and put into the forest. Now, 2 things are really important about that. One is her mother absolutely does not want this to happen, tries to protect her child. It is not successful, so she is put away into sort of a mental prison and is taken away. Luna, it turns out that there is a witch, but she does not take these children for anything other than she doesn't understand why these children are being left every year, but she rescues them, takes them across the forest, and for years and years and years has been giving them to different families in different communities on the other side of the world. What happens here is normally this witch feeds these children with magic from the stars, which is just enough to sort of give them a sparkle, a different thing, and they are known as star children. But on the day she takes Luna, she actually pulls magic from the moon. And Luna gets imbued with moon magic, so she can't be left. She becomes a part of the witch's family, which is her, a tiny dragon, a swamp monster, and off we go from there. Luna can't control her magic, and it causes problems. So the witch, her name is Zan, I believe, Z-X-A-N, she sort of binds Luna's magic inside of her until her 13th birthday, with this idea that on that day her magic will come into being. There will be sort of retributions for that. I'm not going to get into them, don't want to spoil anything. But then Luna leads her life. But we also get the points of the view from a young man who was involved in the day that Luna was put in the forest, and he could not get over what happened between the mother and the daughter, so he sort of changes his life entirely. I'm not going to spoil any of that too, because that is very much the story. This book was a little bit slow for me. Like the first 2/3 ran at a pace that sometimes I just wanted it to pick up. I think the world is beautiful. I think the writing is beautiful. I just wasn't, in the first 2/3, I was just like, okay, let's move on. And then the last end sort of rushes by into like this big ending, which is great. It really is. But for me, it was like the tale of two books. I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it. I would give this to a lot of middle grade readers or people who like middle grade fiction, and I think everyone will really like it. For me, it was just a little bit of pacing. I could have used a little more speed sort of in the beginning and middle, and a little less speed, a little more development at the end. But that's a silly thing for a book that I absolutely enjoyed and will likely be giving out as a Christmas present this year. But there you go. That's sort of my point of view on it. So that's The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. I'm having trouble with names today. So there you go. Another read and reviewed video. 3 more books that I've read in 2019. As always, if you're a return subscriber, thank you so much. If you are new to my channel, I hope these books all wind up on your TBR and you come back for more. Until next time, I wish you happy reading, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!